Hello and welcome back to LUKE-N-SHAE'S Plays. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'm back with Shay Spots. You guys are just gonna join me, have a little bit of news update for you. So before I begin, please, if you haven't already, subscribe. It's 100% free. We're trying to grow our podcast, and click that notification bell so that you get alerts when we'll be posting and when we'll be going live. Also, don't forget to comment. We like to have your feedback on what we're sharing with you, what we're talking about, or even if you see anything that needs to be improved. Your comments are welcome. And don't forget, if you like the content that we're sharing, please click that like button. That helps us grow our algorithm, so actually grows our platform so that we can be dispersed into an algorithm so that other viewers can find our platform. So, all right, like I said, I have a news update, little videos for you guys, and we're gonna check out some videos to what's going on the latest news that's out here. So let's take a look at this. And again, I hope you guys are smiling and you're having a great start to your day. If you're just starting off your day, or if your day has started, if you're enjoying your lunch break, I hope that you guys are enjoying whatever you're doing today and you're wearing your smile. So just want to say, I know a lot of us have experienced this. Have you ever just gotten a message on your phone, text alert on your phone, and it's an unfamiliar number, but somebody goes in with all this, conversation, and you're like, wait a minute, who's this? Sometimes you get an accidental text, right? Can you imagine if you received a text that was war plans, like legit war plans, to your phone? You're added in a chat. Plenty of times I know I've been added in a chat, and it'll be, a legit chat or sometimes I'll get a chat that I know it's like a scamming chat or something, and I take myself right out of there. I block it. I'll report it as spam, whatever the case might be. Imagine being added into a chat and just thinking, okay, this can't be real. Normally for me, I'll just try to block it or delete, whatever the case might be. Well, a journalist recently came out yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, and he actually received a chat. He was added into a chat, and it was a chat from the Trump administration. They were discussing war plans with Yemen, what they were going to have there, different things. He thought that it was fake, didn't pay it any mind. And then when the strike happened, he realized, oh crap, this was real plans sent to my phone. Security breach, uh-oh. So let's take a look and see what's going on, because that's kind of like an epic fail. It's more than kind of like it is. So let's take a look at what they're saying in the news here.
This just in, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, says he was accidentally texted war plans.
Yeah, we literally just received this piece from The Atlantic, and in it, Goldberg writes, U.S. national security leaders included me in a group chat about upcoming military strikes in Yemen. I didn't think it could be real. Then the bombs started falling. CNN's Alex Marquardt joins us now live. And Alex, this piece came out literally in the last few minutes ago. I haven't been able to read through all of it, but this seems like something out of a farce, like out of a comedy.
It is just stunning on so many different levels. I understand why Goldberg didn't believe it was real, because it is just shocking in several different ways. Goldberg was added to a Signal chat with some of the most senior national security members of the Trump administration. Signal is a messaging app that is encrypted, probably why these officials thought that they could have a discreet conversation on there. But on it, in this chat that Goldberg was a witness to, they talk about the planning for the recent bombing of the Houthis that started on March 15th. They talk about current intelligence assessments. There's a full-on debate among these officials about whether they should carry out this bombing of the Houthis. And these are conversations that could be in violation of the Espionage Act. Now, this group was started, it looks like, by the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, who called it the Houthi PC Small Group. PC refers to Principals Committee. The principals in the administration are the senior-most officials. And among that group of senior officials, you have the National Security Advisor, the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense and of State, the Director of National Intelligence, the CIA Director, Steve Witkoff, the Special Envoy, the Chief of Staff to President Trump, and the list goes on. There are 18 of them. So there's this debate over whether the U.S. should go through with this bombing of the Houthis. Vice President Vance is actually arguing against it, saying that just 3% of trade goes through the Red Sea, which is where the ships have been targeted by the Houthis. Radcliffe, the CIA director, he chimes in with current intelligence assessments that may be related to intelligence operations that are ongoing. Goldberg does not print that because, of course, that, amongst so many other details in this, are so highly classified. Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, he chimes in saying that waiting a few weeks or a month wouldn't fundamentally change the calculus. And he notes, interestingly, that if this leaks, we look indecisive. Of course, it would eventually leak. Now, keep in mind, as they're having this discussion, Goldberg is watching all of this unfold. And he doesn't know, again, whether it's real, but he would quickly learn that it was. On the morning of March 15th, which is the day the bombings began, Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, posted a team update at 11:44 in the morning saying the bombings were about to start 2 hours later. And in that message to this large group, again, including Goldberg, he posted operational details about these strikes that were about to happen, information about targets, about weapons, and the attack sequencing.
The fact
2
that they
hours
were
later,
texting this in a
the strike
chat
started. Goldberg looked up on Twitter and he started to see explosions happening in Yemen, and that's when he knew it was true. And that's when these officials essentially started celebrating. You have John Radcliffe, the CIA director, saying a good start. Mike Waltz, this National Security Advisor, responds with several emojis, as does Steve Witkoff, with two hands praying, a flexed bicep, and two American flags. So everyone approving of what just happened and celebrating. The National Security Council has not pushed back on this at all. They said that this chain was in fact real. Brian Hughes, the National Security Council spokesman, says this does appear to be an authentic message chain. They are looking into how and someone was inadvertently added, how Goldberg was added to this chain. And he tries to spin it as a demonstration of the deep and thoughtful policy coordination between senior officials. So no pushback from the White House in terms of the authenticity of this. But again, this may violate the Espionage Act. Jeffrey Goldberg and his colleague Shane Harris, who's an intelligence reporter, spoke with several lawyers who say that it may have violated the provisions that govern the handling of national defense information.
Yeah.
Bottom line, they say, to put it on Signal, they should not have established a Signal chat in the first place, is their conclusion, which is kind of obvious. And then the kicker of this whole piece is, as Hegseth is describing how this is is going to unfold and what is going to happen. He says, we are currently clean on OPSEC, which is operational security. Clearly, they were not clean because they included a journalist in this conversation on signal.
Okay, who was the JG who thought, who was missing, who should have been part of the conversation?
We don't know why Waltz initially reached out to Jeffrey Goldberg and added him as a contact, and then eventually added him to the group. You're absolutely right. They probably thought they were adding someone else from within the administration who had a similar name. Why this mistake happened is just the first of a very long list of questions.
Wow.
Alex Marquardt, thank you so much for bringing us this reporting. Let's talk more about national security leadership of the United States would communicate on signal about imminent war plans. I also could not believe that the national security advisor to the president would be so reckless, he writes, as to include the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic in such discussions with senior U.S. officials. Secretary, what's your reaction to this reporting?
Obviously, a very serious mistake on the part of whoever included Goldberg in this highly classified chain of command messaging that went on that involved war plans. To have had somebody from the Atlantic on that chain, without question, was a serious mistake. And I hope the White House takes this seriously, because the last thing you want to do when you're talking about war plans is to have a serious leak like this that could undermine the war plans, but also jeopardize lives. So I hope they take this seriously.
What would
Okay, I'm gonna pause it right there, and I have a second video. So yeah, I'm gonna pause it right there. But just interesting what they said so far, just with the breach of that's war plans right there. That's war plans that was leaked out in a Signal chat. As far as that, they're having a chat about it, and that's kind of, from what they're saying, is that's something that they shouldn't even have created, like a group chat, Signal chat, because when you think about that, even though that was accidentally texted to the journalist, you have to wonder, like, how many people out here, these people that can hack into things, and there's just so many ways where that just sounds like a epic fail. So yeah, and another thing, you want to trust that all that important information is being handled a certain way, because with the Trump administration, that is one thing that we can all say, that he's like, hey, I'm putting the best people in these positions. You know, you've seen people getting fired from their positions, and, you know, that whole thing, and you just got all this DEI stuff, and it's like, okay, well, if you're putting the best people in these positions, but everybody's not fit to lead, that's a security breach. That's major. Can you imagine if that was sent out to that country, or somehow they got a hold of that information and they knew where those airstrikes were going to happen, where they were going to actually hit in Yemen? And wow, just, oh, that's crazy. Or if it would have been leaked out to anyone else. Right now, the journalist we know about because the number was in there, but there's just so many things that is wrong with that. But let's look at the Trump administration. I have another video. Let's see what the elect president, Donald Trump, let's see what he had to say about this. Okay?
To the White House now, where President Trump just held a meeting with his cabinet this afternoon. Also in attendance, Department of Government Efficiency head Elon Musk. This comes as concerns grow after a journalist was included in a group chat regarding attacks on Houthi rebels in Yemen. President Trump commented on it during a meeting with Louisiana's governor today. Take a listen.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now. Olivia, do you know how that journalist got included in this really sensitive group chat?
Well, Liz, what a shocking report from The Atlantic today, sending ricochets around Washington that Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, appears to have been accidentally...
He didn't seem to... Okay, so just going by what he said, it seemed like he wanted to tease the Atlantic. Like he was, okay, that magazine, it's going out of business. They're trying to tell you something that is basically a security breach. That's something important, like really important, and no accountability. Like, oh wow, I'm gonna have my guys look into that. Nothing. It was just on to the next thing, kind of like all nonchalant. Basically, I don't know. Hey, is this the first time he found out about it? I doubt that. I mean, come on. The president, you mean to tell me you're the last to know? Come on. That's something where that would have been a call. Like, hey, that got out there. There's a journalist who has that. But you have to act like it wasn't a big deal, which is concerning because that's a major breach right there. If that had got out to someone else, thank goodness it was an American citizen. But, that's crazy to sit there and tease the Atlantic. Oh, that's going out of business. But I don't know. Something like this, you might make them stay in business because you just gave them a big story to report because somebody who works for them received war plans. Okay, let's listen to more what they have to say.
Included on a group chat with a lot of heavy hitters, including the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, the Vice President, Trump's Chief of Staff, on very sensitive plans to attack Houthi rebels in Yemen over the weekend. Now, this report was published today. Jeffrey Goldberg was talking about exactly what transpired in that group chat, which was before the strikes happened, where we saw some conversation between the Vice President and the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, over whether or not they should postpone the strikes for a month or so. Also quite notable in that group chat, the Vice President appeared to criticize Trump and the administration, saying that there were some inconsistencies in the messaging around Europe, quoting from the piece now, which allegedly shows what the vice president had said during that group chat. The vice president said, quote, "I'm not sure the president is aware how inconsistent his message is on Europe. This is with his message on Europe right now." He says there's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices as a result of these strikes. Now, we are hearing from the spokesperson of the National Security Council, who appears to confirm that these texts are authentic. In a statement to CBS News, he said, "At this time, known cabinet meeting that Trump has convened with members of his cabinet. Mostly everyone was there. The only person who wasn't was Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. He's on a trip in the Pacific right now. But Elon Musk was there, and we did hear from Trump talking to the secretaries at the end of that meeting about rooting out the waste, fraud, and abuse in their own agencies. Trump at one point said that what they're doing is not necessarily a popular thing to do, which is to accrue a lot of layoffs as a result of rooting out this waste, fraud, and abuse that he's been talking about. But I do also want to point out another key takeaway
Okay, I'm going to
that Trump
pause
did
it right
discuss,
there.
which is going to
Okay, so that pretty much sums it up. I didn't want to go any further into that because that reporter was getting into other things. But so you heard basically that was what Trump had to say about the security breach with that journalist getting accidental text message. He was included into that Signal chat, that group chat, and he got some information that nobody should have been getting other than the people that were supposed to be in that chat. But again, we got to do better because that's very valuable information that was leaked out there. And you want to trust that when he said he's picking the best people, you're putting the best people there. It just looks like a whole shim when you have just all that. That's not even... You're just including somebody in a text that wasn't even supposed to be there. And that's not a fail that anybody needs to see happen, especially when you're discussing war plans. But wanted to share that update with you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Always at LUKE-N-SHAE'S place. Your mental health is important. So a positive mentality is a destined reality. Wear your smile. Stay away from drama and stay blessed. Until next time, take care.